In a crowded neighborhood near the old harbor of Cebu City, where the air smells of salt and street food and the sound of jeepneys never truly fades, a small wooden house stands between taller concrete buildings. Inside that modest home lives Rina Marisol, a 10-year-old Filipino girl whose life has been shaped by music long before she understood what fame or talent meant. The walls of the house are thin, but they carry stories of struggle, resilience, and melodies passed down through generations. Rina's family does not have much. Her mother works long hours selling snacks near the pier, and her father takes temporary jobs whenever ships arrive. Yet, even in scarcity, their home is rich with rhythm. Every morning before school, Rina wakes to the sound of the ocean and the soft hum of an old radio resting on a cracked wooden shelf. That radio is her treasure. It barely works, the volume knob loose and the signal often filled with static, but it plays the songs that changed her life. Reggae music flows through the room, slow, soulful, and full of meaning. These songs come from her grandfather's legacy, Bob Marley, a name that feels both distant and deeply personal. To Rina, he is not a global icon or a legend carved into history books. He is simply Lolo Bob, the man whose voice taught her that music can heal pain and unite people. As a toddler, Rina would sit on the floor, tapping her fingers against empty water containers, mimicking the rhythm she heard. By the time she was 5, she could hum entire melodies without missing a note. Her voice, even then, carried a raw emotion that startled neighbors. Sometimes, in the late afternoons, when the sun dipped low and painted the sky orange, Rina would stand by the open window and sing softly. People passing by would slow their steps. Fishermen unloading their catch would pause. There was something in her voice that made the noise of the city fade away. School was not always easy for Rina. She wore hand-me-down uniforms and carried old notebooks, their pages filled with both lessons and lyrics she secretly wrote during breaks. Some classmates teased her for singing reggae instead of pop songs. Others didn't understand why a Filipino girl sang with such deep soul. But Rina never stopped. Music was not a hobby for her, it was her escape. When electricity went out at night, she would sing in the dark, imagining a stage lit by thousands of lights, her voice reaching people she had never met. Her mother often watched her from the doorway, torn between pride and fear. Pride, because she knew her daughter was special. Fear, because dreams can be fragile, especially for a child growing up with so little. Still, she encouraged Rina, reminding her that her voice was a gift meant to be shared. On Sundays, they would attend a small local gathering where Rina was sometimes asked to sing. Each time she did, people listened as if they were hearing hope itself. In Cebu City, life moves fast, and dreams are often buried under survival. But Rina's dream refused to stay silent. Every song she sang carried the struggles of her family, the spirit of her heritage, and the heart of a child who believed that music could change her world. Long before any big stage or famous judges, Rina had already begun her journey, singing not for applause, but because her soul demanded it. The moment Rina Marisol stepped onto the massive America's Got Talent stage, it felt as if her entire life had led to this single breath. The lights were blinding, far brighter than anything she had ever seen back in Cebu City. The audience looked endless, a sea of unfamiliar faces stretching into the darkness. Her small hands trembled slightly as she held the microphone, and for a brief second, the confident voice she carried so effortlessly at home seemed to hide deep inside her chest. She swallowed hard, remembering her mother's words, "Sing from your heart, Anak." The judges sat before her like figures from another world. Simon Cowell, known even in the Philippines for his brutal honesty, leaned back in his chair with folded arms, his expression unreadable. He had seen thousands of singers, heard countless stories, and rarely showed surprise anymore. To him, Rina looked like just another nervous child. The crowd murmured softly, unsure of what to expect. A young girl, barefoot, carrying a reggae influence on a global talent stage, it didn't fit the usual pattern. When the music began, it was gentle, almost fragile. A slow reggae rhythm filled the theater, unfamiliar yet soothing. Rena closed her eyes. In that instant, the stage disappeared. She was no longer under bright lights, she was back in her small home near the harbor, singing to the ocean, to the streets, to the people who had believed in her when no one else noticed. Then she opened her mouth and sang. Her voice didn't just travel, it settled into the room. It was rich, emotional, and shockingly mature. Each note carried pain, hope, and warmth, as if she were telling a story older than herself. The audience grew silent. Phones that had been raised for casual recording slowly lowered as people realized this was something different. This wasn't a child performing for attention. This was a child delivering truth. Simon leaned forward, his posture changing without him even realizing it. His skeptical expression softened, replaced by focus. He stopped judging and started listening. The other judges exchanged glances, eyebrows raised, mouth slightly open. Rena's voice grew stronger, weaving reggae soul with Filipino emotion, honoring her roots while creating something entirely her own. The lyrics spoke of unity, struggle, and love, words that resonated deeply in a world hungry for sincerity. As the song built toward its climax, Rena's confidence grew. The trembling disappeared. Her small frame stood tall, grounded by the rhythm. She sang the final note with her eyes open, looking straight ahead, as if singing not just to the judges but to everyone watching from afar, especially her family back in Cebu, crowded around a small television, holding their breath. The silence that followed was heavy, almost sacred. Then, suddenly, the theater erupted. Cheers thundered through the hall. People stood, clapping, shouting, some wiping tears from their eyes. It was a standing ovation, raw and unplanned. Rena froze, overwhelmed, her hands shaking again, but this time from disbelief. Simon Cowell slowly stood up. That single action alone sent another wave of applause through the crowd. For a man famous for restraint, this was rare. Rena's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. She hadn't just performed well. She had changed the room. In that moment, the little girl from Cebu City was no longer invisible. Her voice had crossed oceans, cultures, and expectations, proving that true talent doesn't need permission, it simply needs to be heard. Rena Marisol stood in the center of the stage, her chest rising and falling as she tried to understand the thunder of applause surrounding her. The sound felt unreal, like a wave crashing again and again, refusing to stop. Her eyes searched the judges' table, her hands still wrapped tightly around the microphone, as if letting go might cause the moment to disappear. She thought of her mother back in Cebu City, probably crying now, hands clasped together in prayer, whispering thanks between tears. Then Simon Cowell spoke. For a few seconds, he didn't say anything at all. He simply looked at Rena, his expression serious but softened by something deeper, respect. When Simon finally leaned toward the microphone, his voice was calm, almost quiet, yet it carried across the entire theater. Rena, he said, I've been doing this a very long time. I've heard thousands of voices, and most of them, you forget. The audience went silent again. But what you just did, Simon continued, is very rare. You didn't come out here to impress us. You came out here to feel something, and you made all of us feel it with you. Rena felt her eyes burn. Tears blurred the bright lights as his words sank in. Simon straightened in his chair, nodding slowly. You're 10 years old, yet you sang with the heart of someone who has lived, struggled, and loved deeply. That kind of emotion can't be taught. It's a gift. He paused, then added, and honestly, I didn't expect this at all. The crowd reacted with cheers and laughter, understanding the weight behind his honesty. Another judge spoke, praising her courage and the way she honored her roots while creating her own sound. Yet it was Simon's reaction that stayed with everyone. He wasn't playing a role, he was moved. When he finally smiled, an open, genuine smile, the audience erupted once more. Simon leaned forward again. Your grandfather changed music by spreading a message of peace and unity. Tonight, you reminded us why that message still matters. But make no mistake, this is your moment, not his. You belong on this stage. Rina could no longer hold back her tears. She nodded, whispering a shaky, "Thank you," her voice breaking as the audience applauded even louder. As the judges cast their votes, it was unanimous. For yes lit up the screen behind her, glowing like stars. The crowd roared, and confetti rained down, but Rina barely noticed. In her heart, she was already somewhere else, back home, singing by the window, dreaming quietly. Only now, the dream was real. As Rina walked off the stage, Simon watched her go, shaking his head slightly. "Remember this name," he said into the mic, "because this little girl didn't just perform tonight, she reminded us why we love music." And in that moment, Rina Marisol wasn't just a contestant. She was a symbol of hope, proof that even from the smallest corners of the world, a voice can rise and make millions smile.